Dillon Gabriel's career is being carefully nurtured by the Browns coaching staff. Plenty of reps, clear support, and a system tailored to his needs. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is left watching from the sideline or fighting through blitzes with no help. The message? Some players get a path. Others get punished. And according to the breakdown, this isn't just happenstance. It's a reflection of favoritism embedded in the team's leadership. Kevin Stefanski's refusal to adjust game plans for Sanders or give him a fair shot screams bias, not football logic.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Sanders isn't failing on his own. He's being failed by those in charge. There's no excuse for the imbalance in treatment between two quarterbacks in the same system. One is being developed. The other is being discarded. If that's not sabotage, what is? The Browns can't claim to build for the future while neglecting the very talent that could define it. The NFL is no stranger to drama, but every so often, something cuts through the usual noise. And this time, it came from Ravens head coach John Harbaugh, who didn't mince a single word when calling out Kevin Stefanski. The accusation? Sabotage. And no, that's not an exaggeration. Harbaugh publicly criticized Stefanski for how the Cleveland Browns are handling, or more accurately, mishandling quarterback Shedeur Sanders. And when a respected coach like Harbaugh goes that far in the middle of the season, you know it's not just frustration. It's something deeper, something systemic. Because at this point, it's clear Shedeur Sanders isn't just being overlooked. He's being deliberately held back. The signs are everywhere. Sanders isn't getting real game reps. He's being exposed to relentless pressure with zero protection. He's working within a system that's not only rigid, but clearly built with someone else in mind. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, the clear coaching favorite, is being supported, developed, and shielded from scrutiny at every turn. This is a situation of two young quarterbacks growing together in a healthy competition. This is one quarterback being hand-fed opportunities, while the other is being thrown into the deep end with weights tied to his ankles. And when he struggles, the staff just shrugs and moves on. No adjustments, no support, no accountability. That's not bad coaching. That's sabotage. Let's break it down. In a functioning system, every young quarterback, especially one with Sanders' skill set, is supposed to get tailored development, game reps, time with the starters, protection, a playbook that works to his strengths. That's basic. That's coaching 101. But Stefanski has failed across the board. Sanders isn't getting those reps. He's not building chemistry with the offensive line. The playbook isn't adjusted when he's under center. He's taking unnecessary hits because the protection schemes don't shift for him. And the response from the coaching staff? Silence. Even when it's obvious to everyone watching that the system isn't working for Sanders, no one makes the necessary changes. It's as if they want him to struggle, like they're waiting for it, so they can point to the scoreboard and say, "See? He's not ready." But let's be real. How is any quarterback supposed to succeed in those conditions? And that's the point Harbaugh was making. This goes beyond a few questionable decisions. This is about intentional neglect. This is about a culture of fear and favoritism inside the Browns organization, where only one quarterback is being groomed, and everyone else is just backup insurance. Gabriel, on the other hand, is being wrapped in bubble wrap and given every tool to succeed. He's been handed the reps, the trust, the flexibility. He's been made the centerpiece of the developmental plan. Not because he's outperforming Sanders, not because the team is winning, but because he was chosen. It's that simple. He was chosen. Sanders wasn't. That's not how winning teams operate. If you want to build a sustainable offense, you don't alienate a player like Sanders. You develop him. You invest in him. You give him a structure that allows him to grow, not a battlefield where he's expected to prove his worth through punishment. This kind of environment doesn't just stall development. It actively erodes it. And it's not just physical. It's mental. Quarterbacks aren't machines. Confidence matters. Rhythm matters. Trust matters. You can't constantly throw a young QB into chaos and then wonder why he isn't performing at a high level. The system Stefanski has created is toxic. It's inconsistent. It's punishing. And it's built on a foundation of fear. fear of giving up control, fear of accountability, and fear of what it might mean if Sanders actually did succeed. Because if Sanders thrives, the spotlight shifts, and all of Stefanski's decisions, the ones that sidelined him, ignored him, and undermined him, get exposed for what they really are. So instead, they keep him quiet, keep him benched, keep him surviving, not developing. And make no mistake, that has long-term consequences. Once a quarterback's trust in the system is gone, once he starts to believe that no amount of work will get him on the field, that damage is hard to reverse. You lose your locker room that way. You lose your culture. You lose your future. This isn't just about one player being misused. This is about a team showing the entire league how not to handle talent. When you've got a young quarterback with high football IQ, solid mechanics, leadership traits, and a track record of resilience, the responsibility is on the coaching staff to bring out the best in him. But that requires effort. It requires intention. And it requires fairness. And right now, the Browns are failing on all three counts. There's no fairness in how Sanders is being treated. No effort to build around his strengths. No intention to elevate him to starter quality. Just mismanagement and excuses wrapped in corporate jargon and "we'll evaluate" statements. That's why Harbaugh's comments hit so hard. He said what many people were already thinking, but no one with real clout was willing to say publicly. Because when you call it sabotage, you can't walk that back. And yet it's the word that fits. Sanders is being set up to fail, and the people responsible are doing nothing to change course. If anything, they're becoming more entrenched in their decisions, doubling down on a strategy that doesn't work. Simply because admitting failure would mean owning the consequences. That's not coaching. That's cowardice. This could have been avoided. The Browns had a chance to run a dual-track development plan. Support both quarterbacks, foster healthy competition, and let performance speak for itself. Instead, they force a narrative, a false one, and it's unraveling in real time. The longer Stefanski stays in control, the deeper this problem will go. Sanders deserves a real shot. He deserves to be developed in an environment that values growth, not one that protects egos and plays favorites. At the end of the day, this is about more than just football. It's about how leadership shapes culture, about whether coaches are willing to put players first, even if it means rethinking their own biases, about whether franchises are committed to building for the future, or just protecting their seats in the short term. Because the longer they continue the charade, the more talent they waste, the more trust they lose, and the more damage they do, not just to Sanders, but to their entire credibility as a franchise. If the Browns don't turn this around, it starts with accountability. And yes, that means replacing Kevin Stefanski. Because a coach who lets fear and favoritism dictate development is not a coach who builds winners. And Sanders, he still has time. But that window is closing fast. What he needs now isn't patience. It's opportunity. Real reps, real protection, real support. And most of all, a staff that believes in him enough to stop sabotaging his future. Let us know where you stand. Do you think Shedeur Sanders has been set up to fail? Should the Browns move on from Stefanski before more damage is done? Drop your take in the comments. Like if you're done watching leadership kill potential. Share this with someone who's been asking what's really going on in Cleveland. And subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns of the NFL's most dysfunctionals. Let's be honest. What's happening in Cleveland isn't just another slow burn quarterback controversy. It's a case study in how a team, from the top down, can weaponize neglect. And Shedeur Sanders is the one paying the price. The Browns have a quarterback with clear talent, high football IQ, and natural poise in Shedeur Sanders. But instead of building around that, instead of laying the groundwork for long-term growth, Kevin Stefanski and his staff have chosen a route that looks suspiciously like sabotage. Not overt, not loud, but silent, calculated, and consistent. And now it's being called out by one of the most respected voices in the game, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. Harbaugh didn't use coach speak. He didn't dodge the question or lean on vague platitudes. He said outright what a lot of people around the league have been too careful to say. The Browns are sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. He called it what it is. And once someone in his position pulls back the curtain like that, it can't be ignored anymore, because this isn't about mistakes. Mistakes can be fixed. This is about intent. Let's look at the facts. Sanders hasn't gotten meaningful starter reps. The offensive line isn't adjusted when he's under center. The protection scheme stays static. Even when he's getting lit up, there's no rhythm to the plays when he's in, no structure, no tempo, no continuity. He's not just being thrown into chaotic situations. He's being abandoned in them. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, the coaching staff's clear favorite, is getting the red carpet treatment, reps with the first team, tailored plays, a support system that's designed to absorb mistakes. When Gabriel stumbles, it's chalked up to growing pains. When Sanders enters a game, the bar immediately shifts from development to perfection. That's not coaching. That's manipulation. It's not hard to see what's really going on here. Gabriel fits Stefanski's idea of the quarterback he wants. Sanders doesn't. That's it. It's not about performance. It's not about readiness. It's about preference. And that's the most dangerous thing a coach can bring into a quarterback room. Because when you pick favorites before the competition even starts, when you invest fully in one player and shut the door on the other, you're not developing a team. You're protecting a narrative. That's what's happening in Cleveland. The coaching staff isn't trying to build a foundation. They're trying to validate their own decision-making. They're more focused on proving they were right about Gabriel than they are on doing right by Sanders. And the locker room can see it. Players aren't blind. They know who's getting the real reps in practice. They see who the coaching staff trusts. They feel the difference in game planning. And when they see a player like Sanders being left to fail in obvious, fixable ways, it doesn't just affect Sanders. It affects everyone. That kind of toxic hierarchy kills trust. It fractures team culture. It makes every rep feel political. And once a team senses that success is dictated by preference instead of performance, that's when the wheels come off. Because it's not just about Sanders' future anymore. It's about the message the coaching staff is sending to the entire roster. And the message is loud and clear. It doesn't matter how hard you work. If you're not the chosen one, you don't get a shot. That kind of environment is unsustainable. It's poisonous. And it's why Harbaugh felt the need to step in. Let's not act like this kind of thing is rare. Coaches playing favorites? It happens all the time. But most of them have the sense to keep it subtle. Stefanski hasn't even tried to hide it. The disparity between Gabriel's treatment and Sanders' situation is so stark, it's not even controversial to point out anymore. What is shocking is how long it's been allowed to continue. And that's where the bigger issue starts. Because this isn't just a Stefanski problem anymore. It's an organizational failure. Someone higher up should have stepped in months ago. Someone should have seen the imbalance, the favoritism, the damage being done to a promising young quarterback, and said, enough. But no one did. And that silence, that inaction, it says everything. It says the Browns are more interested in preserving internal hierarchies than they are in winning. It says they're fine with letting one player take all the hits, physically and metaphorically, so long as it keeps the coach comfortable. And that tells you exactly what kind of franchise they are right now. There's still time to fix this. Sanders isn't broken. Not yet, but he's being broken by design. Every snap he plays under these conditions, every game he enters without protection or a real plan, pushes him further from the quarterback he could be. And that's the part that stings. Because Shedeur Sanders didn't enter this league as a raw prospect needing a miracle. He came in as one of the most prepared, poised, pro-ready quarterbacks in his class. He didn't just have name recognition. He had the skill to back it up. He deserved a fair shot. Instead, he got politics. He got a coaching staff that decided early on he wasn't their guy, and then built an entire developmental system without him in mind. He got game reps only when games were already out of reach or spiraling out of control. He got blamed for outcomes he couldn't control because no one gave him the tools to change them. And worst of all, he got ignored. That's what this comes down to. A talented player being systematically ignored by the very people who should be building around him. This isn't speculation. It's not fan overreaction. It's not some viral overhype. It's happening. And John Harbaugh had the courage to say it out loud when the Browns wouldn't even say it to themselves. Now the question is, what happens next? If the Browns really care about the future of their team, if they care about creating a culture where talent is nurtured and not buried, They can't let this continue. They can't let Stefanski hide behind empty coaching phrases, while one of their most promising assets is quietly being dismantled. And if they won't act, then someone higher up has to. Because this isn't just hurting Sanders. It's killing the franchise's credibility. There's a choice to be made here, and it's coming fast. Either the Browns change course, clean house, commit to true development, and give Shedeur Sanders the support he was promised, or they watch another young talent walk out the door damaged, disillusioned, and wasted. And when that happens, no one will be able to say they didn't see it coming, because Harbaugh already said it. He said it loud, he said it clear, and now it's on the Browns to respond. If you made it this far, then you already know this isn't just a bad season storyline. This is the kind of situation that defines careers, not just Shedeur Sanders, not just Kevin Stefanski's, but the Browns as an organization. What's unfolding in Cleveland right now is a full-blown meltdown in slow motion, and it's the kind that doesn't get solved with a post-game quote or a convenient quarterback switch. Because the damage being done behind the scenes is real, and it's happening in plain sight. Let's go back to the basics. Shedeur Sanders is a young quarterback with undeniable talent, discipline, and leadership. He entered the NFL with all the right ingredients. He studies the game, he leads with poise, and he handles media pressure like a seasoned vet. This isn't some flash in the pan, overhyped rookie who needed a miracle to make a roster. This is a guy with the tools and the temperament to succeed. But no quarterback succeeds without the system behind him. No matter how gifted, no matter how composed, development demands structure, support, intentional reps, a coaching staff willing to adapt, grow, and mold the offense around the player's strengths. And that's exactly what Shedeur hasn't gotten. He's been given a clipboard in chaos. He's been given scraps of playing time, usually under pressure cooker conditions where the line collapses. The pocket's gone in seconds, and he's expected to pull a rabbit out of a helmet just to justify getting more snaps. And when he doesn't, the staff nods like it proves their point. He's not ready, except he is. He's just not being given a real shot. Let's compare this to Dillon Gabriel. Gabriel isn't just getting more time. He's getting a whole infrastructure. The offense shifts when he plays. The schemes are designed to complement his timing. The line is adjusted. The play calls are safer, cleaner, more rhythmic. The coaching staff speaks about him in a completely different tone. Calm, patient, invested. Meanwhile, Sanders gets the evaluate-as-we-go treatment. Cold reps, minimal chemistry with the offense. No consistency in when or how he's used. And worst of all, no sign that the staff sees him as part of the future. It's not just a missed opportunity. It's a betrayal of trust. Players show up to organizations expecting that if they put in the work, they'll be developed, they'll be coached, they'll be given a path forward. That's not what Sanders is getting. He's getting gaslit by the very people who should be in his and now. Thanks to Harbaugh, that curtain has been ripped down. Harbaugh's comments didn't come out of nowhere. They were the result of watching week after week of clear pattern negligence. Because when you're on the outside looking in and you can see a player being sabotaged by his own coaching staff, it stops being speculation. It becomes confirmation. And it raises an even bigger question. Why? Why would a coach like Stefanski willingly tank the growth of a quarterback with as much upside as Sanders? The answer is simple and ugly. It's fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of letting go of control. Fear of allowing a different kind of quarterback, one they didn't handpick, to succeed. Because if Sanders does succeed, it upends everything Stefanski has built around Gabriel. And that success would make the favoritism too obvious to deny. So instead, they shut the door. Quietly, strategically, they dress it up as development. They use terms like learning curve and situational reps. They say things like, "We're taking our time with him." But none of that's true. They're not taking their time, they're wasting his. Because development requires risk. It means letting the player get out there and fail sometimes. It means putting your reputation on the line to build something long-term. It means believing in your players enough to know that they'll grow with real reps, not just in theory. And Stefanski hasn't done any of that with Sanders. He's played it safe. He's protected his narrative. He's guarded his guy. And let's be honest, he's done it at the expense of Shedeur's growth. What kind of message does that send? Not just to Sanders, but to the rest of the team? It says that development isn't about merit. It's about politics. That the coaching staff doesn't want a quarterback to win if it's the wrong one. And that, right there, is the most dangerous thing a franchise can do. Because you can't fake development. You can't pretend to be a growth-first culture while actively stunning your young talent. The players know. The locker room knows. And now, after Harbaugh's call-out, the whole league knows. So where do the Browns go from here? They have two choices. They can keep pretending this is all part of the plan. Keep trotting out Gabriel as the face of their future. Keep Sanders on the sidelines, out of rhythm, out of favor, and out of opportunities. They can ride the season into the ground, hope nobody else calls them out, and pray the fan base forgets. Or they can do what's long overdue. Admit that this has been a failure of leadership. Admit that Stefanski's approach isn't working. Not for the team, and definitely not for Sanders. And start over. That means giving Shedeur real game reps. Building actual plays around his strengths. Protecting him. Coaching him. Treating him like the valuable quarterback prospect he is. Not like an inconvenience. And more than that, it means firing Stefanski. Because this kind of sabotage doesn't happen on accident. It happens when a coach chooses personal comfort over player growth. It happens when ego outweighs development. And once that line is crossed, the trust is gone. The damage is done. The only way to fix it is to start fresh, with leadership that puts the players first. Shedeur Sanders deserves better. Not just because of what he's done, but because of what he hasn't been allowed to do. The NFL is supposed to be the highest level of football, where talent is given the chance to rise. What we're seeing in Cleveland is the opposite. Talent being buried to protect fragile leadership. That's not just a bad look. It's a failure. So here's the bottom line. You don't need to be a fan of Sanders to see that he's being mishandled. You don't need to root for the Browns to know they're making a massive mistake. All you need is to pay attention to the facts. The tape, the treatment, the disparity. It's not a coincidence. It's not developmental philosophy. It's sabotage. Let us know what you think in the comments. Has Sanders been set up to fail, or is there still time to turn this around? Should Stefanski be gone by the end of the season, or sooner? Like this video if you're tired of watching talent rot on the sidelines. Share it with someone who still thinks this is a quarterback problem. And hit subscribe for more deep dives into the NFL's most frustrating, avoidable disasters.